Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to a video on the SC2 YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be here and joining all of you and talking a little bit more about my new product called Solar Paste. Now Solar Paste is so much fun. It comes in 6 different colors, but each one of these colors is actually a white paste and it has a different pearl powder inside. And what these pearl powders are going to do is when you kind of look at them straight on, they don't look like too much, and then when you tilt them in the light, you see that amazing colored shine. So each color that's on the bottle is what they're going to sort of turn into when you tilt them into the light. We have Cross My Heart, Overheated, Golden Hour, Crocodile Tears, Beluga, and Royal Flush. And these don't necessarily coordinate with particular colors in the Simon Hurley Create line, but they look really great with the rest of the product line, and they kind of work in there really nicely. So I'm going to walk you guys through what Solar Paste can do in your card making and craft projects, and we're also going to jump in and show you how it compares to Lunar Paste, which is another paste in my product line. We've been getting lots of questions about the differences and similarities between these pastes, so I wanted to show you guys in today's video so you can decide which is right for different applications in your card making and crafting projects. Now let's look at the swatches of Solar Paste. Solar Paste is really special because when you look at it straight on like this, you really can't see much of the color, but then when you tilt it in the light, it becomes those beautiful colors on your project. And this isn't even doing it complete justice. The lights in the studio kind of wash out some of that color, but when you tilt it, you get that beautiful color and shine on the surface. When you apply it thin like this, and then on the black cardstock, it's really nice and intense across the surface. These colors are absolutely stunning. And then when you apply it a little bit thicker on the black cardstock, you actually see more of that white paste when you're looking straight on like this. And then when you tilt it in the light, you get those beautiful colors on the surface, and it really shows up like that. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now I always think it's super important to show how the colors fit in with the rest of the line. So I swatched out some of the Lunar Pastes in the same color families, and you can see the Solar Pastes are at the end here. You can see they fit in along with the Lunar Paste on black cardstock, but they give a little bit more of a milky color and a little bit less intense, but they're still absolutely beautiful and so shiny next to those Lunar Pastes. So it really expands the color collection that you have of the Lunar Pastes, and there's not really much overlap between any of the colors. Because on black cardstock, the Solar Pastes are still pretty intense, just like Lunar Pastes, and you can really use them together like this. Alright, so let's start off with a side-by-side comparison on white and black cardstock using Lunar and Solar Paste. So here I'm using No Diving and Beluga from the Solar Paste line. I've of course used a lot more of the Lunar Paste, but you can see both of these have a very similar creamy consistency to them. They're actually the same type of consistency, so if you absolutely loved the consistency of Lunar Paste, you're going to get that same look and feel with Solar Paste. Now, when we apply Lunar Paste down to white cardstock, you can tell that it's super pigmented and it's not see-through at all. That was really important with Lunar Paste, that you get that same color intensity on both white and black cardstock. So when I spread it onto black, you're gonna see that intense blue color and shine. That's because Lunar Paste is colored with different mica powders. So that's what gives it that shine, but it also provides the color. Because if we tinted it with a dye-based ink, you would actually not be able to see the color on black cardstock. So going with that powder gives you that really solid color on both colored cardstocks. And I also wanted to share that you can go in and apply it with your finger and get a thinner application. And even when you apply it super thin like this, you can see that it's not see-through or transparent. You're still getting that same color accuracy and that same beautiful metallic shine on both white and black cardstock, which I really love. So that color doesn't disappear when you apply it to dark surfaces. And then we'll go into Beluga, scoop a little bit out here, and you can see this is just a white paste. And when you apply it down to that white cardstock, it pretty much disappears into the surface of that cardstock. You can see it a little bit more in real life, but it's a really nice and white paste. And then when we apply it to black cardstock, you see a little bit more of that blue shine right away, but you can still see that white creamy consistency that it has. And then we'll again go in with our finger to apply it down to the surface. You can see it sort of disappears into that white cardstock, which is really nice. And then when we go onto our black cardstock, you can see when we apply it thin, that blue comes out even more and really shines on the surface. We're not gonna look at this too much right now before it dries, because once it dries, Solar Paste really shifts and changes completely when it sinks into the cardstock. Now dry times for these pastes are gonna be dependent on your climate and how thick you apply it. If you apply it super thin like we did with our finger, it's gonna take about a minute or two to dry. It dries super quick like that. And then if you apply it a little bit thicker, I would give it 30 minutes to an hour to completely dry. The awesome part about it though is you can go in with the heat tool if you want to help speed along the process, and it's not gonna hurt the paste at all. Just make sure that when you're using your heat tool, you keep the heat tool moving across the surface so that it doesn't bubble anything up by applying too much heat. I like this Ranger heat tool because it disperses the heat evenly across the surface and is nice and quiet as it's drying the pastes. And through the magic of television, we've got some samples that we've already done. So I wanted to bring these in and show you what they looked like completely dry. Of course, you can see that Lunar Paste, it didn't change much at all. It still has that amazing intense color and that really rich shine whether you apply it thick or thin. And same thing against that dark cardstock. That Lunar Paste is really great. We know and love that formula and the beautiful colors that are in the line. But when we compare it to Solar Paste, it really is a completely different paste, although it has the same feel and texture to the paste. So when you apply it to the white cardstock surface, like I said, it sort of blends into the surface of the cardstock, and you don't really notice it too much when you're looking at it straight on, especially when it's thinner like that. But then when you tilt it in the light, you get that really amazing blue shine. And the camera doesn't even do it justice. It's beautiful in person, that amazing shine that it has. That's exactly what it was meant to do. I wanted to be able to create subtle backgrounds and have it blend in and then really surprise you when you tilt it in the light. And when we look at it on the black cardstock, it gives a more milky looking color when you look at it straight on until you tilt it in the light, and then that color is absolutely shiny and beautiful. Again, whether you apply it thick or thin, it gives such a beautiful effect. Now, if you apply it thicker on the black, you'll see a little bit more of that white sort of milky haze when you're looking at it straight on before you tilt it. Whereas if you apply it thinner like this, you see a little bit more of the color and less of the white paste behind it. But so beautiful, whether you use it on a white or black cardstock, but you can see it's a very different from Lunar Paste. If you want that intense color and shine, go with Lunar Paste. If you want to do more special effects or get more of a subtle look on the white cardstock, definitely go with Solar Paste. So I applied this right through my sweater weather stencil, and like you saw earlier, when you apply it with a palette knife, you get that really nice smooth layer of color. You can see it just looks really nice and white on the surface, and then when you tilt it in the light, you get that beautiful shine and color on the surface as well. So this can be really great for subtle backgrounds. Like here I wanted the look of sort of snow, and you can build on a snowy scene on top, but I love that you can't really see it until you tilt it, and then you get that beautiful purple color and shine on the surface. And then I also went in with blue on black, so you could just see how they look on the background. Again, you get that more milky look when you look at it straight on, but then when you tilt it in the light, that blue color really shines through and gives such a beautiful look. Now that sort of subtle effect can be really fun when you use it with layering stencils, because sometimes if you apply two colors down, it can be a little bit too distracting for what you'd want. So I love that here I was able to apply one color down for the first layer. So here I used a little bit of Clear Skies and a little bit of Crown Me. And then for both of these layers, I used different colors of Solar Paste. Here I used the Crocodile Tears for that beautiful green color, and you can only see it when you tilt it in the light. And then here I used Royal Flush to get a different shade of purple when you tilt it in the light, and it looks absolutely stunning. So using that GeoCircle stencil really builds a beautiful background, but that subtlety comes in handy because it really comes to life when you tilt it in the light, but it's not too distracting if you're just looking at it straight on. Now, one of my favorite things about Solar Paste is tinting it with different reinkers to create your own colors, and you can really have fun with this because there's so many different endless opportunities to create new colors. So I'm going to go in using a little bit of Cross My Heart Solar Paste, and to go along with that, I'm using a Shooting Star reinker. So two completely different colors. I think sometimes people think you have to play it safe and do a yellow with a yellow or the same color, but you can totally switch it up and play and have fun with whatever colors you use. So I'm going to grab quite a bit of the Solar Paste here, lay it right down on top of my acetate here. And I'm using the palette knife from the paste tool set, and then I'll go in with my Shooting Star reinker. And depending on how much paste you have is how many drops you want to add in. Since we used quite a bit of paste here, I'm going to go in with just 2 small drops of the reinker. This stuff is super pigmented, so you want to be careful with it. If you only use a little bit of paste, maybe start with 1 drop and add more if you feel like you need it. Then I can go into here and just start mixing this together. These palette knives really come in handy when you're mixing together your paste and creating your own colors like this. All right, and this is such a great way to use your reinkers and get more use out of them. You don't want to use something opaque like a paint because it'll actually cover up the mica that's inside of there. So these reinkers are dye-based inks and they are translucent. So you'll be able to see through them and you'll be able to still see all the mica that's underneath it. So keep that in mind, don't use anything that's opaque. For this background, I'm going to use the Sunrays layering stencil. I love this one, and the fun part about this is, of course, you can use both layers to create a really full and complete sunray pattern, but if you just want to use one of them, that's totally okay too. So I'm going to use the Sunrays 2 stencil. I'll place it down right onto my surface and center it up there, and then I'll go in using my mint tape to hold my stencil into place. So just place it down. All right, then we'll collect the paste that we mixed down over here and just take it with our palette knife and spread it down at the bottom of our stencil. You just want to spread quite a bit at the bottom here and then we'll be able to spread it across our surface. To spread it across, we're going back in the paste tool set and we're gonna use the scraper that comes in here. This is really nice because all we need to do then is just scrape it across the surface, and it's going to scrape across a smooth and even layer. Now you can see there's quite a bit of paste on the back here, but there's not filling out the whole background. So instead of just swiping and continuing to swipe like this, you actually need to tilt it down more to dispense the paste that's on your tool onto your background. And then when you want to even it out a little bit more, go at more of an upward angle. So that's how this tool sort of works. So you just want to coat the whole background with paste first. And then once you got it fully coated, lightly go over the top to remove any of the excess and smooth it out across the surface. And once that's all finished, we can lift it off of our background. And once this background dries, check out how beautiful it looks. And when you tilt it in the light, that yellow turns to that beautiful red color. You can really see it shifting here, especially in real life. That shine is absolutely gorgeous. So I love that it's one color, and then when you tilt it in the light, it changes. And you can make it any sort of color you want. The sky's really the limit since we made these pastes white, so you can tint it with whatever color you'd like. And then when it comes to using this paste, you just want to spray everything down with water before it's all dry, and just clean it off with a paper towel. If you break it down with that water, it cleans off really easily while it's still wet. If you still have any excess paste on any of your tools, going right in on a piece of black or white cardstock and just scraping this across the surface creates for a really nice background or piece of cardstock that you can then use for die cutting. So I would set this off to the side, wait for it to dry. You can see a lot of that red is really showing through on that darker colored cardstock, and then you can put a word die down or something and have a really beautiful background when you die cut it out. I wanted to show you a couple other options for tinting at different colors, and of course you can write down the recipes that you sort of used if you want to remake these again in the future. So this one I used a little bit of the overheated paste, which is the orange, and I put 1 drop of No Diving Reinker in. And check this out, it's that beautiful blue colored paste, and when you tilt it in the light, you get that really beautiful orange colored paste on top of the surface. That shine is absolutely gorgeous, and then it looks completely different on black cardstock. So here you can see a little bit of that blue, but then it really takes over with that orange and the black cardstock. I love it. All right, same thing here. So these are the exact same colors. It looks really different on black or white cardstock. Here we tinted Royal Flush using Piggyback Reinker, and you can see when you tilt it in the light, you get that beautiful purple color. And on this side, it's more of a blue paste, but then Crocodile Tears was in there, so you get that really great minty color. And then here I used the Beluga colored paste, and I tinted it with green. So it's a completely green paste, and then it turns that really beautiful blue color when you tilt it in the light. How gorgeous is that? Now another thing I really wanted is when you put these over top of inks, for them to sort of soak up that ink and become the color. So here I blended out Midnight Snack Simon Hurley Create ink across the background, just to sort of demonstrate this, and then I put a little bit of Royal Flush on top of here. And you can see the paste turned completely blue with that color underneath because it's a water-based reactive ink. So that ink reactivated because of the water that's inside of this paste, and it lifted that color into the paste, so it became blue. But then when you tilt it in the light, you get that really beautiful purpley shine, which I absolutely love. I don't know if it's really picking it up fully on camera there. But I love that you get that shine and then that blue color is still showing through. Same thing with this background. I did it with lots of different Simon Hurley Create colors. We got red, pink, orange, and yellow. And then when you put the paste on top of here, I believe I used Overheated. It really creates a beautiful shift when you tilt it in the light, but it's not distracting from the background when you look at it straight on like this. It sort of blends in, it becomes the color of the background, but it gives it lots of texture and a nice surprise when you tilt it in the light and get that beautiful colored shine. For this example, I did some ink blending as well with lots of different Simon Hurley Create inks over top of the background. You can see those colors are absolutely beautiful, and then when you put paste over top of the surface, it really shifts and it almost covers up all of those colors when you tilt it in the light. So this is a really fun way to do it too, is just to layer the ink and then the paste right directly on top of it through the same stencil. Here I used the Warped Circle stencil, and on this one I used Golden Hour. You can see that beautiful golden look. And then on this one, I used Royal Flush to get that beautiful purple color and shine across the surface when you tilt in the light. So really fun surprise backgrounds that don't look like a ton when you look straight on, but then you get that beautiful color and shine when you tilt it. I also wanted to show you can apply it really thin. So here I used my Lemon Branch layering stencil. I did it all with inks first, and then through some of the layers, so through the lemons and the leaves, I used different colors of Solar Paste to really bring it to life with lots of beautiful shine. Again, I'm not sure if it fully picks up on camera, but those lemons have a little bit of orange on top of them with Overheated. And the green has a little bit of Crocodile Tears, which just adds shine and sort of brings them to life. But I love that you can still see all of the color that's underneath it. Alright, for this next technique, I want to show you one of my favorite ways to use Lunar Paste and Solar Paste together. So here I'm going to use an alternate embossing folder. I've already embossed a piece of black cardstock using the Rose Bouquet 3D embossing folder. And this creates some really beautiful and intense texture in your cardstock. I love Altenews' gorgeous florals. So to start off, we want to use our Lunar Pastes first. I'm going to go in using a little bit of Slippery When Wet here. And I like to take my finger, I'm just going to place my finger right in here onto a little bit of that paste, and a super tiny bit goes a long way. You can actually see my finger through the paste. That's how little of an amount I'm using on the surface here. Then you want to just gently rub over top of the surface, and it's just going to start lightly painting on top of that 3D embossing. Now when you need to apply a little bit more, but like I said, a little bit at a time. You don't want too much to really sink into the surface and have globs on there. You just want to lightly glide that color across the surface, and then keep going back in for more if needed. Then for the second flower, I'm going to go in using a little bit of triple berry paste, and again, just go in using a tiny little bit on my finger like that, just to coat the surface of my finger, and then go on top of the flower and start coloring it in with your finger. Now, a lot of people ask if you can sort of use a sponge blending tool or a sponge to apply this, anything besides your finger. I really say that your finger is the best tool because you can sort of tell how much you're applying onto here, and also you can tell how much pressure you're applying. Whereas with the sponge, if you apply the sponge down, there's so much give to that sponge, so it's just going to kind of sink into all of the surface of the blending and not give you as cool an effect. Whereas your finger sort of glides across the top of the surface and still shows all of that detail in there. Last but not least, I'll go in using a little bit of fake plant. And then again, just take a little bit on my finger here and lightly glide across the surface of those leaves. And just make sure to use a light pressure and you'll stay inside the lines. Because it's raised off the surface, if you just apply a little bit of pressure and not too much, it's not gonna hit any areas that aren't raised. All right, this stuff dries in a matter of minutes. It's already beautiful and shiny and completely dry, which is amazing. And once this stuff dries, when you rub your finger across it, none of that mica comes off on your finger, which is one of my favorite parts about Lunar Paste. When it's dry, it's completely set in place into the cardstock. And now to finish this off, we're going to use some Solar Paste. So I'm going to start off using a little bit of Overheated, which is this gorgeous orange shifting color. And again, just take a tiny little bit on your finger. A little bit goes a long way, especially when you're going in with the Solar Pastes. And I'm just going to go into the center of this yellow floral and just add a little bit of orange, which is going to hit the raised surfaces and just give me a two-toned effect. And you really can't see it much when you're looking straight on like this, but I'll show you tilted in the light. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Now for the purple flower, I'm going to use a little bit of Golden Hour, and you might be a little bit scared if you know the color wheel, because yellow and purple don't necessarily mix too well. But once this purple is completely dry, we're totally able to go in with the yellow, because the mica in here isn't going to interfere with whatever's inside of here, especially once they're already dry like this. So then I can go in with a little bit of yellow, because yellow looks really good with purple. They just don't mix really too well. And I'll just apply a little bit of that yellow right to the center to add a little bit of highlighted color there. And last but not least, we'll use a little bit of Crocodile Tears, which is this minty color, and it's going to add a nice lighter color to that green. And we can just go in and add a little bit here and there to give some highlights down to these leaves. So really easy to just apply a little bit of this lighter color all over the surface. All right, and here's for the final. All right, and once these all dry, here's the final reveal. When we tilt it in the light, it's absolutely gorgeous. You can see that bit of the orange on the center here. You can see all of that really beautiful yellow on top of that purple flower. And of course, this lighter minty Crocodile Tears on top of the fake plant. What I love about it though is that when you look at it straight on, you can't really tell that the Solar Paste is there until you tilt it and see all that amazing color and shine. So it really adds a whole nother layer of depth and dimension. I did it on a couple other embossing folders like this, and you can see how absolutely gorgeous and stunning those colors are. Again, you can barely see them until you tilt it, and you get that beautiful color and effect. All right, you guys, I hope you found this video extremely helpful in demonstrating the difference between Solar Paste and Lunar Paste and all the amazing different techniques that Solar Paste can do. Be sure to leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts about Solar Paste, and thank you so much to SCT for having me on their YouTube channel. This was a ton of fun. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me, and I'll see you all soon in another card making and crafting video. Have a great day. Bye.